Hello, welcome to this new class. In the last class, we discussed about the do-while loop, and then we are still on the discussion on loops. And in this class, we are going to be talking about the for loop. Okay, we have the while loop, we have the do-while loop, and we have the for loop, and we also have the for in loop and the for each loop. So in the next subsequent classes, we'll talk about the for in loop and the for each loop. Now, today we'll be talking about the for loop, and the thing is this: every loop, every type of loop has its best scenario to use it. Okay, now the for loop, okay, the for loop we're going to talk about in this class works best when you want to iterate, when you want to go through a certain, okay, we haven't talked about collection, but pardon me, we are going to be talking about list in this class, but later we are going to explain more on list when we start talking about collections in that. But for now, just understand that, a list is, when you, let's say you want to go to the market, you make a list, okay? You can make a list of a number. You can make a list of numbers from 1 to 10. You can make a list of anything at all. You can make a list of your clothes. You can make a list of your books. You can make a list of anything. So what happens when you want to go through your list and do something with what you have in your list? We talk about data. We are talking about data here, manipulation of data. Okay, that is what the computer really does. That's what your computer program does. So let's say we have a list of something and we want to loop through it. We want to go through it. Okay, so how do? We use the for loop. So let's create a list. Okay, we create a list. This is how you create a list. But for now, please don't bother. If you don't understand what a list is, don't bother. Okay, don't bother. Now, I call it list of numbers. Okay, or list of scores. Okay, results. Okay, list of scores. Now, let's say you have a test. You did a test for your students, and some scored 23, the other one scored 47, the other one scored 89, the other one scored 45, the other one scored 90, 65, 79. Okay, now this is a list of the results, the scores for your test. Okay, this is you have how many, you have students who participated in a test and you're putting their scores in a list. So you want to go through their list and do something with it. You're the only one who knows what you want to do with it, but you need to go through them first before. So this is where you now use the for loop. Okay, I want you to just understand what the for loop really is and what how you use it, the syntax and everything. So let's say I want to loop through this and I want to print out their scores. Okay, I can now say for, okay, I would do my initializer. I will do var. Okay, there's no need for var. I can just use int. I call it a is equal to 0. Okay, if a less than scores dot length a plus plus, and I just want to print out you might not really understand. Don't bother about the list. Okay, don't bother about the list, but understand the for loop. Okay, I have written a for loop right now. I am looping through all the values in my list. A list is a collection of something. Okay, so I have a collection of the scores of the results of my students who did a test, and I'm looping through them. Okay, maybe you will get to understand this thing better when we start working with loops, but I would just want you to grab the for loop. Okay, when you look at here, we have, if you look at this, look at the keyword for, then we now have this inside this parentheses, we have two what do you call it, two semicolon, And you know that semicolon denotes the end of a statement, okay? So inside this parenthesis, we have the, let me see if I can do this, if this will be allowed. That's good, okay? Now, okay, now I just have to bring them in, separate lines so that I can demonstrate what I want to demonstrate here. Now look at it. The first line is called the initialization. Okay, here we are initializing our starting point. Okay, here is the condition. We are checking for a condition. Okay, if this condition, sorry, it has to be a comment. If this condition is false, this will not run. This code inside the for loop will not run. Here we'll now have the action. The action is where you do something in order to make increment, sorry. It's where you do something in order to make, remember, if your loop does not have any means of becoming false, the condition becoming false, that means it will run forever. You remember, okay? So the same thing works here. So you have to find a way to increment or decrement or whatever you can, whatever the action is. Sorry, this is called the action, not increment. Here, this is called the action. The action is where you actually do something in order to make your program, the for loop, to actually stop at a point. Okay, so in the while loop, we did this action inside the code. Okay, you can also do the same thing inside. You can actually spread these things out, but for simplicity, okay, I want you to just follow this syntax. While you keep coding, while you keep reading books and watching other videos, you can see by that time you would have gotten a good understanding of the basics of for loops before you can now spread this state, the initialization, the condition. The initialization can be outside of this parenthesis. The action can be outside of the parenthesis. But for now, I don't want you to think about that. But over time, you're going to see people do it that way, and you can also do it that way. But for now, just stick to this syntax, okay? Look at how it is written. The for, open bracket, open parenthesis, you now do your initialization. You initialize your counter. Okay, it's called a count. You initialize your counter. Then semicolon. That your counter, you now have to check a condition. Here I'm checking, I want to stop whenever the length of this my list, well, whenever we have reached the end of it, okay? And then I will now increment the starting index for it to actually come to an end at a point. Then I now print, okay? So when I run this code now, it's going to print all the values I have in this list, okay? I hope you're not confused, but if you're confused, please chat me up. I can explain better, okay? But the thing is this, you use a for loop to loop through through a list, okay? And just try to understand this. Try your own, do your own exercise. You can change the scores to another thing, okay? But you can just loop through using the for loop. But if you don't understand it, don't bother. We are going to explain more, or you will understand more when we start talking about loops, because list, because that is basically where you use the for loop. Okay, you use it to loop through things like list. Okay, so thank you very much. In the next class, we'll be talking about the breaking out of a loop and the continue keyword, the break keyword and the continue keyword. Okay, I hope you understand the for loop, but if you don't, please let me know in the comment section, chat me up on WhatsApp, and I'll make it clearer for you. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next class.